Every single app out there has the box that says single, divorce, separate. If you're clicking the wrong box, you're already starting off with a lie. And then that just goes down the rabbit hole of, maybe putting photos on that were 8 years old. I mean, you just start, creating this person that isn't really you. Just be truthful. There's nothing wrong with being divorced.
I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married with children.
It's been 12 years since we got this gang together.
And we're still running the rapids of living with a blended family.
And sometimes that is just not easy.
If you're looking for support and tools when it comes to divorce, step-parenting, co-parenting, and giving it your best,
you're in the right place.
We're talking about everything.
You ready to get this party started?
Always.
Okay, if you are recently divorced, maybe you're separated and starting to think about what is life going to look like in the dating area now that I'm no longer married or with the person that I was with. And if you have kids and you're going out into the dating world, you might have some questions about how you're going to find somebody, and maybe it's online dating, and maybe you're wondering how you can even date in a pandemic. So many questions when it comes to online dating for a lot of people. How do you get back in the game? So I got a really cool guest today. His name, he goes by Coach T. Anthony. Coach T, he's awesome. And he helps people with online dating because, there's like so many dating apps out there. And you wonder, like, how do I make a profile? How do I attract the right people? What do I do on the first date? What do I say on the phone? All of those things. That's what he does. He actually coaches people how to successfully date online. So if this is where you're at, then this is the episode for you.
Coach T, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think it's so cool that you're chatting with me today because this is a topic we haven't discussed yet. And it's pretty important because a lot of our listeners are recently divorced. They're like, what do I even do to even start dating again? They're single parents and it's very overwhelming. And I'm so curious to hear what you have to say because I didn't have a Coach T when I got divorced and started dating.
Yeah. So, I get two kinds of divorce clients. I get one that just comes to me and they're ready to rock and roll. They're aware of online dating. Maybe they were just married for 5 or 6 years and they're just ready to get back out there. So they need a profile review.
Yeah.
And then I have the one that was maybe married for 25 years. And they know what online dating is. They've seen it. Maybe their kids have shown some swipes that, hey, mom, look at who I'm swiping on. Or maybe they go out with their friends and, they've seen some of their single girlfriends or guys that, that are, looking for love online, but they're just not exactly, they know what it is, but they're not exactly sure how to, go about it. So, and not to mention, they don't want to go through the frustrations and the horror stories that they've heard about online dating. So that's where I come in.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about that. How did you come to become a coach? What was it that drove you to do this?
That's organic. And I'm showing my age here. So if we go all the way back to America Online, do you remember that?
Yeah. Like I can hear all the noises trying to sign up right now or sign in.
Right. You're waking up mom and dad at 12 o'clock at night because it's so loud. It's going on. It's going crazy. Yeah. So I was always good at going into chat rooms. And I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I would go into like Cincinnati Love or Cincinnati Singles or whatever. And I would be able to connect with women and be able to just schedule coffee dates. And I just had a knack for it. So this was before online dating. So when online dating came out, I was like, oh, what's this? This looks even easier to do. So then I started doing, getting dates for myself, and then all my friends and some family members were like, how are you doing this? And I was like, well, I'll show you. And I helped friends and family out for years. And then I said, you know what? I'm spending a lot of time on this. So let me just charge like $50 a pop. I'll help you do your profile, help you send messages and so forth. And then so at that same time, I was in the corporate world. I was an auditor for almost 25 years. And it was getting to a point where, the teams were getting laid off and I was doing too much transition work. So I'm thinking, so the last time I got laid off was in 2012. That's when I started to take social media seriously and started to really think about, hey, why don't we transition into something completely different? Because obviously, how many more layoffs are you going to go through, right? So I downsized. I sold everything. I sold my house, my car, everything, and I bought a small little condo, paid off all my bills, and just started this from scratch. And here I am. And this is what I do. I love it. It's my passion.
I'm going to go with all like the big questions here.
Okay.
So, because when I got divorced, I think there was Match.com and eHarmony. Now there's like a number of online dating sites and apps and platforms and like all kinds of stuff. So the first question is like somebody who's new is just like, where do I even begin? Where do I even start with this whole online dating?
For 99% of my clients, I use Bumble.
Okay.
And I use Bumble because it's easy. It's the easiest app out there to maneuver through, post pictures and stuff like that. And I have a lot of female clients that come to me and they are so frustrated with all the messages of, hey, what's up? How you doing? Yo. I mean, they get 250 messages a day, so overwhelmed. And I said, well, let's get on Bumble. And I said, I could take all the frustration away from you if we go on Bumble, because they can't message you until after you guys match, right? And then you reach out first. So having said that, there's a lot of women that says, well, I don't want to make the first move. And I'm like, yeah, you're not making the first move. A first move like a move is a guy asking you out to dinner.
Yeah.
So if you think because the app is situated the way it is and the way it's set up that you think that's a first move, that ain't a move. All you're doing is basically you're in control. Men know this. Men don't think you're making the first move. It's always the women who think I'm making the first move. We don't think that way. We're just on the app. This is the way the app works. And we're just going to abide by the rules of the app. Right? So I would suggest guys and girls to go to Bumble. Try that first and get your feet wet. And then maybe you can go to Match. I mean, Match has a lot of people. It's still popular. Depending on where you live, if you live in a popular city, Hinge is great. It's so unique. Logan Uri, she's the dating coach and love scientist over there. She's doing a great job for that. But I don't use Hinge. It just depends. I'll sometimes slide Hinge in, depending on where they live. But I found that, in smaller cities, I just can't get enough oomph, enough people, quality people in that little town. So I need something a little bit more like a swipe app, like a Bumble, to really because that Bumble is so popular. And, I think when people start with that, it's a little bit easier to then jump to something else.
Right. Because there's some people that will have so many different apps. And then I ask myself, how are they what kind of time are you spending each day? Do you allot a specific amount of time to go through these? It seems like a lot of work.
It can be if you're using 2 or 3 different apps. And then once you start getting on 2 or 3 different apps, then you get so overwhelmed that you just stop doing it altogether. So right. I always suggest, stick with just one app for right now. One app.
Yeah.
Once you get the hang of that, once and I always, if you're a client of mine, I'm giving you homework. You're going to be messaging people. I make sure that I hold you accountable. I just don't go, oh, okay, there you go. No, you're going to message a certain amount of people We're going to talk about it on Zoom, and and we want to get you to the finish line. This
Right.
isn't, and then this way I can relieve some of their frustrations by maneuvering them a little bit. Like I like to say, I help men and women maneuver through the often chaotic jungles of online dating. And that's where the one-on-one Zoom calls come in, where if they are frustrated, I say, oh, no, it's okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to maneuver this way. And it just, it works out great. Once they get the hang of it, once they know what to do, it's real easy. It's so simple, and they can relax a little bit, concentrate on making dates and messaging. And now it's a little different because we're doing video chats. And boy, people will go on a coffee date, but no, I'm not doing a video chat. It is so amazing, like what people are in fear of. It's like, I got so many stories for that, but yeah. So now it's a little different during the COVID times. So,
well, that's what I was going to say. What's been the biggest shift you've seen, and how are people getting through this during a pandemic?
Video chat. You got to get over your fear of being on video. And I think people fear that once they see me on video, because video puts 10 pounds on or what have you. I had a real short story. I had a client named John, and John's like, I can't do this. I can't do it. And I'm like, how about this? I've got 9 Instagram lives coming up, and I'm going to grow a white beard. And I'm going to go on there and do Instagram lives with some of the top relationship people in the world with a white beard. And if I do that, you're going to do video chats. And he goes, you ain't going to do that. And I said, I will. And so I did. So if people out there want to check my Instagram, you'll see me with the Santa Claus beard rocking it on IG. So I said, and so he did it. And then he's fine now. Once you do it a couple times, he was fine. He goes, I can't believe that I, complained about this. And I'm like, yeah, thanks a lot. I went live with a white beard because of you. So, but yeah, so I proved to him, it's not that big of a deal, really.
Right. Well, here are some questions, because you also coach in terms of just dating as well. So what are some pieces of advice in terms of, like, how do you know it's, nobody wants to be wasting their time if it doesn't have any potential. So what are some things that, like a checklist or something that gives people, like, I should definitely do a date with this person? Like, or what are the, like, no way, definitely not going on a date with that person or doing a video chat with that person? Like, what are the deal breakers, and what are the, like, yes, this is worth it?
Well, that is going to be up to each individual and what their standards and boundaries are. But there are, like, little things that you can, do they bring up sex right away? That's a red flag. Are they telling you something, and then they, maybe a little bit down the way, they say something else, like they work at a car dealership, but then, a week later, they're like, yeah, I still work at blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like their stories are not meshing, so to speak. And you're kind of like, wait a minute, didn't you just say, or she just say this? Also, another thing is being separated. That's a tough one. I have a personal story on that one, because I didn't do my homework as I teach my clients, and I went on a date with someone who said they were separated. And after the food came, she basically told me that, well, I'm not really separated, or I'm sorry. She said she was divorced, and then she said, well, I'm separated. And I was like, okay, but then he still lives with her because he doesn't have a job. And it just went down the rabbit hole. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not even, so then I went home and did my homework and found out that Facebook, they look like a happy family.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you really got to do your homework when they say they're divorced or they're, separated, ask them a few questions. You don't want to listen to the entire divorce thing. But,
that is so true. I've actually heard that story a couple of times. One that stands out in particular of a woman who she was divorced and she met someone online, and it was like instant chemistry, totally hit it off. She had kids, he had kids, and she thought he was divorced. And they started dating, like weeks go by, and then he kind of starts ghosting her. And she's like, wait, what's going on? We were totally hitting it off. And he was never divorced. He was just separated, and he ended up reuniting with his wife and making that marriage work. And I was like, oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So I always tell my clients to do it's called a digital footprint. And I'm not saying play FBI agent. I'm saying just go on and do some searches here and there, and just like Facebook and stuff like that, just to make sure, if I would have done that, I would have probably, not have done that date. But so little things like that you can do, especially when they say they're divorced or, separated. Now, I always get the client that is divorced that says, well, what should I put on my profile?
Yes, that was a big question too.
Should I put divorce or should I put single? And I go, well, what do you think you should put? Well, single. And I'm like, well, why is that? And they go, well, I feel ashamed that I'm divorced. Who's going to want me? I'm divorced. I couldn't make it work with this one. Why would anyone believe that I can't make it work with that one? And I said, well, first of all, it sounds like you still have some trauma. It sounds like you still need to maybe work through some stuff. And because you feel unworthy right now. And two, you never want to start off with a lie. And even though you're technically single, every single app out there has the box that says single, divorce, separate. If you're clicking the wrong box, you're already starting off with a lie. And then that just goes down the rabbit hole of, maybe putting photos on that were 8 years old. I mean, you just start, creating this person that isn't really you. Just be truthful. There's nothing wrong with being divorced. Like I had a guy that said basically the same thing. And I said to him, well, why do you think this? And he said that basically the same thing. Who's going to want me? I'm divorced. I'm 45. I have 2 kids. I was married for 15 years. I said, as a dating coach, I used to walk up to tables of women and play the dating coach game and say, hey, I got 2 guys here. I got one that's 45 who was married, and he has 2 kids. Now he's divorced. And then I have another guy who's been a bachelor his whole life, never been in a committed relationship, never, popped the question or anything. Which one would you date? And every time everyone said the guy that's divorced. So the guy, the client said, well, why is that? I said, because you've done it. You dropped to one knee. You made the commitment. You did all that. You just picked the wrong person.
Right.
And they understand that. Right. So once I got through to him like that and we got his profile going, he was like, oh my God, you're right. This is crazy.
Well, it's true. And you also realize, people learn from that. You look at it from going, okay, I went through this and I actually have more wisdom because now I'm going to take with me the lessons I've learned and what didn't work and do some things differently in my next relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's no reason why you can't. And
exactly.
I always tell clients like, hey, look at it like this. If someone is out there that's going to judge you and say, well, if you couldn't make it work with them, then why would you? That's not the person you want. They have probably never taken a risk. You did.
Yeah.
And it's good for you because this is what life's about. You take a risk and see what happens. Right. And
yes.
people are going to respect that. And it's attractive. And, so until I get through to their mindset and really get them over this shame thing of no one's going to want me, and then they start getting back out there and dating again, they'll see that sometimes you just, end up with, wrong person, then you try again.
Have you ever wanted to send an anonymous message or letter to someone? For me, the most powerful therapy has always been to write. If I feel angry, sad, super inspired, or just wanting to feel understood, I write, and often I write letters to someone when those feelings involve a particular person. When it comes to divorce, co-parenting, step-parenting, new relationships, and everything that comes along with blended families, there tends to be a lot we don't say and a lot we wish we could say. And it feels so good writing a letter as if you were going to send it to that person It's like this huge pressure off of your chest. It's kind of cathartic. Well, we want to offer you that forum where you can have a voice, anonymously, of course. If there's something you've always wanted to say to someone, but knew that out of respect or to save drama or because you knew it wouldn't be received well, now is your chance to get it out there and have it be read, because we would like to serve as your voice. So here's what to do. Head over to everythingalways.co/forum. That's FORUM, everythingalways.co/forum, and fill out the form. We won't know who you are, as it will be sent to us totally anonymously. It just hits our inbox, but we have no idea who it's coming from. As they come in, we will be sharing these on the podcast. We'll be able to reply to you. You'll still remain anonymous unless you reply back. And we'll let you know if it will be featured. It's 100% confidential. So what do you say? Ready to get it off your chest? Okay, back to the episode.
What are some other do's and don'ts for your profile?
Do's and don'ts for the profile. Oh my gosh. Oh.
The don'ts are going to be way more fun, I'm sure.
Yeah. The don'ts, obviously, any negativity. There's a lot of bitter people out there, and sometimes when they start typing their bio, they'll just start off being bitter, and it can seem a little hurtful. So you have to be careful about negativity. Even politics is a big one. Like, I'll see some profiles that are spot on. Oh my God. I was like, this is unbelievable. And the pictures are great. Everything. It's like, they almost went to a dating coach. And then at the end, they ruin it with, and I don't care if it's left or right. We'll just pick right. If you're a Trumpster, you're a piece of blah, blah, blah. And you do. And you don't ever contact me because you, and it was just a small little paragraph of hate.
Yeah.
And so I always tell my clients, if politics is important, then you just say something like, I lean left and I hope you do too. Just like that.
Right.
Just like that.
Instead of being,
I didn't even think about that.
Because that's pretty off-putting and scary if you're right off the bat, or you start off with like, I've dated plenty of jerks. Hopefully, things like that. Like you said, it's just an immediate, like, you kind of look at that person as you're negative, you're complaining. This is how you're going to be if I spend time with you.
Yes. And they go based on the past. So, once they start online dating 2 months in, they'll start getting, if we're talking about women, they'll start getting jerks that are doing this or that. So instead of just ignoring it and blocking them and all that, they start to head straight to their profile to talk to the future jerks that they're not even attracted to. And they'll go paragraph after paragraph of saying, please, men, please know how to hold a conversation.
Yeah.
Please do this and please do that. And for the love of God, please don't do. I mean, it's just over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. You can't allow past bad behavior to provoke you to put that on your profile, because all you're doing is talking to the people you don't want.
Right.
So the people that do want you are going to be coming on by and they're going to be swiping left because they know nothing about you. All they know is what you've been through. You're showing them what you've already had. And that's not attractive. We've all had bad dates and bad, relationships. So they don't need to know it, right?
So what about people that are like, they have a great personality, they have all these great things to highlight about themselves, but when it comes to writing about themselves, because a lot of it is, you can put a good picture up, but then you have to actually type the words that describe and show your personality. And some people, despite the very, they in person, they're great. They're kind of like, I don't know what to put. I don't know what to say. And especially because they are writing about themselves. So what are things that they can do to do the do's on their profile?
Yeah. So that's a great question, because a lot of times what they do is they'll just look at another profile and copy that. That's why we always see the trending things like, I like long walks on the beach, and I'm just as comfortable in a pair of jeans as I am a dress. And it's the same, the same stuff over and over again in everyone's profile. So what you need to do is just call some friends, maybe hire a dating coach or a profile writer, because like all my profile says on Bumble is one little punchline. It says, I'm happily single, but lucky for you, I'm flexible. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it works. And then there's a couple other questions that you can utilize to, like, it'll say, what's your favorite destination? And then they can read all that, but it doesn't have to be anything big. You don't have to worry about writing something that's just so, really, when people look at a profile, they're looking at your photos and they go, wow, that's attractive. Then they go to your profile to see if you're crazy. And to see if you're a nutbag. So really less is more, You don't want to put too much. And the same with the photos. You don't want to keep, if you got 5 great photos and you think there should be 8, and all of a sudden, you start aging as the photos, are going, backwards, basically. You look like your age, and then all of a sudden 5 photos in, it looks like you're 10 years younger.
Yeah.
So for photos, you just want to get a photo shoot, a nice, easy mini shoot. You can go on Facebook and find a photographer and say, hey, I need some online dating photos. Say, hey, do you do a mini shoot? I got about $100, a couple outfit changes, and 6 photos. So what you want is 6 photos of you, all consistent. You don't want, and that's it. You don't need to add anything else, because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, so when the person goes to your profile, they're going to be like, I like it. Okay, this is all great. And then all of a sudden you add a couple more photos, and then they go, oh, wait a minute. And then they swipe left.
Right.
So you want to stay consistent and be the same person in almost all the photos with just a different couple outfit changes.
And you want a good picture, but you also need to make sure that it's like not this glorified version of you that doesn't really look like you. Because that happens a lot too, where people are just like, okay, I just met you and you look nothing like your picture. You're kind of vague. You're maybe that person's sister or something, but that's not you.
Yeah, no, that's, and here's a great recommendation. I can't remember what dating coach said it, but in your first photo, what they recommend, I can't remember who it was, but they said, show up on the first date wearing the same outfit as in your first photo. You want to look exactly like your pictures, then put on the same outfit, because
right.
it kind of says, hey, here I am. And they're not going to really catch it. Probably they're not going to be like, oh, that's the same. But what it's going to do is say, oh, okay, in their mind, like, this is the person in the photo, right? Anything that you can do to stay true to what the photos look like is key. 6 months or less, nothing over 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes complete sense. And none of us want to, you would want the same for yourself for meeting someone. So do the same for them. Otherwise, it really is like a waste of time if you're not going to be, transparent with who you are. At least I would feel that way.
Yeah, no. And then it can get worse, because once you start lying, once you start putting up Facetune photos where your head now looks like an egg, not really shaped.
Yes.
What can happen is you fall into this thing where you just don't even show up to the date, because it's not you. It's imposter.
Oh, wow.
You get this imposter syndrome. So now, because you meddled with your photos for so long, and you then, I meddled with the photos, so let me just exaggerate my profile a little bit too. And then when you're all done, it's like, oh my God, this ain't even me. But you're getting all this attention, right?
Yeah.
And you start talking, and then you set up the date, and then you don't even show up, because now, deep down, you're a fraud.
Yeah.
You feel it. And that's where you got to start over from scratch. And don't do that, because you're attracting someone that isn't right for you, isn't real, because you're presenting something that isn't real. Right.
Exactly. Gosh, I didn't even think about that, but that's so true that would happen. What are some, I don't know if we want to call them rules or advice that you give once there's okay, I'm kind of vibing on this person, we have a connection, do you have guidelines in terms of, take it slow, or don't call too much, don't be too eager or be super eager, or chase, don't chase, things like that. Like, because for a lot of people, especially those that are divorced, they haven't been in the dating scene forever. So, men are just like, I don't even know. Like, am I supposed to be funny? Do I just ask her out? How long do I wait? And then, girls are feeling the same thing. How do I call back now? Do I wait 2 days? There's all these things that, like, once upon a time, we had all these like funny rules and things. And now it's like all this time has gone by and you're divorced, you're brand new. It's like you've never done this before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, it's baby steps. And the one thing I say all the time is, when you get out of a relationship, a breakup, a divorce, or what have you, there's two different mindsets. One, you don't want to still be in that cohesive unit mindset, because, when you were married, you had a different role, right? Different needs and different wants and different things that you were providing for that marriage. Now you're single. And sometimes it takes a while to get to that single set mindset. Like, when you can wake up and say, okay, I'm single. Now I'm ready to date on purpose. Right. So, I always try and warn people, like, do the 80-20 rule. Okay. 80% should be your passion and purpose in life. Whatever it is, go find it. 20% should be on dating and friends for a while. Because if you're following your passion and purpose in life, you're doing something that you love, right? And if you don't have a passion and purpose in life, then what are you trying to make that person your passion and purpose in life? Because that's the way it's going to come off. So you don't want to do that. So you really got to live. It's not about faking it or waiting this long, or I'm not going to call him back in 2 hours. You really have to have a life for that to actually happen organically.
Right.
Because you just play the game and say, well, I want him to think I have a life. And that's not going to work in the end. Right. Because after a while, then you're really just going to be texting all day and be like, whoa, wait a minute. I thought you had a life. I can't continue. I can't keep up with this communication. Well, what happened? So you really got to be authentic in that sense. Right.
Yes.
And that's the key. Like, go get a life first and go date.
It's so true. It's really, you're gonna attract better by doing the things that you love and putting yourself as a priority.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, because it's attractive. Look, I have so many female girlfriends that say to me, when I see a man doing his thing, whatever that thing is, it's attractive.
Yeah.
But if a man doesn't have a thing, then, it's hard to become attracted to someone that doesn't have substance, right?
Right.
So the substance, allow the substance to be what attracts you, right? What attracts them to you. And I know it's not easy, but yeah, that's the way it's got to be, because otherwise it just gets messy.
Yeah. My husband and I met on Match.com, and this is like 2008. And we talked on the phone a lot. And I remember in the beginning when we first started talking, he was like, okay, we have to talk on the phone this many times, and then we'll see each other in person. And he had like, those were his like rules. And I had only probably gone on a few, maybe 3 other dates on Match. So it was still not very, it was still kind of new, and I wasn't on any other sites or anything. But I always wondered, I always joke about that was his rule. We have to talk, see if we connect, all of that. And I wonder, do people kind of make these rules up for themselves? Do you advise them on a certain amount of time before they're to meet in person, in normal times when you can actually meet in person?
Oh boy, that is not a great question. Yeah. Even in pandemic times, you still want to try and meet. And I always say, you know, do some texting, do some phone calls, do
Yeah.
some video chats, video dates where you're maybe, playing a game together. I always like Two Truths and a Lie, or, what's that crazy game? I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, do something like that. And then, because if you go too long without meeting, it's going to get stale. You can only talk and text and say the same thing over and over again. So you have to keep it moving. You got to have a decent pace no matter what. So even if you do say, and I always say, hey, now's the perfect time to slow things down and really get to know someone and see if they're what I like to say, COVID worthy, right?
Yeah. Totally. Are you worthy to meet in person?
Absolutely. And you guys can do social distancing. You can pull your car up, side by side and talk to the window. I mean, to take a walk in the park, you got to do something now.
And you both can determine in those conversations what are you both comfortable with too, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Right. Absolutely. And, that's why I think, if one is in super fear of, the car thing is perfect.
Yeah.
Just sit in the car, wind down the window and talk for, just so you can see each other.
Right. Exactly.
You can take your mask. You can take the mask off because you're, plenty distance, and at least you can see it. And you got to have that connection. Without it, it's you're missing it. I call it the chemistry meetup. You don't get that in online dating. You don't get it with video chat. You don't get it with texting. So you got to get that in there. You got to get it in there, because if you go too long, oh boy, that could be a disaster, because one will start to lose interest or maybe start talking to someone else. So you got to keep the flow going. You got to keep a good pace.
Totally. It's so funny because I'm a marketer. And so I'm listening to all of this. I'm like, it's kind of like sales. You can't wait too long. Otherwise you lose the interest of somebody. You got to keep following up and hold their interest.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's a great analogy.
So earlier you said you're taking them to the finish line. What is the finish line in your journey with your clients? Like, how far do you take them?
So the finish line is basically they are now self-sufficient. They can go online, they can, set up a profile, they can get their photos taken. They know exactly what they need to do. And I'll help them through, the first couple of dates, messages and stuff like that. Because here's what usually happens. And, you go on a date, maybe you go on 4 or 5 dates with the same person, and you're starting to, maybe get in this light relationship type deal, and then it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's fine. It happens. That's dating, right? But you now have the tools. You were at the finish line before. Now you just start over. Now you just do it all over again, and you know exactly what you have to do. You don't need to call me back. You can, but I gave you the tools so you don't have to, worry about, oh my God, I can't believe I start over. No, you just get back on the horse.
Right.
Go, and that's what I mean by the finish line.
Do you ever have clients calling you because they're heartbroken? Oh my gosh, it was so good, and now it just fizzled.
Yes, I do.
I was like, you must get that.
I do. And I say, how big's your pillow? And they go, I don't know. And I was like, well, go scream in it once a day. And I'm telling you, the only thing that's going to help is time.
Yeah.
Each day you're going to feel a little bit better. Okay. There's no magic pill I can give you right now. So takes 15, 20 minutes of each day and just go hit a boxing bag or scream in a pillow or do whatever it takes you got to do. But then that's it. You continue on with your day. You do not keep thinking about it. Right. And it works for some it doesn't. I mean, that's the best I could do, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely time. So tell us one of your, I would love to hear a funny story too, but also tell us a success story from one of your clients that you like to brag about.
Well, my best friend of 20 years, I helped him out, and I was with him as he was scrolling, and this was on Match.com. And I said, what about her? And he's like, no, I don't know about her. And he goes, oh, what about this one? And I said, I don't know. She looks like a dominatrix. So he goes, oh, she does. Okay, let me message her. And he ends up marrying her.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And I was the best man.
Oh,
and
that's
she
great.
got up there and said, yeah, this guy, the dating coach, thought I was dominatrix.
That's so great. I love it.
So that was, and they're still married. They got 16-year-old kids now. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's I always go back to that one. But a funny story. Oh, this is a good one. So I had a male client who was talking to this woman, and everything's great. They were chatting, texting, and then they finally did a video chat, and they said, all right, let's do happy hour. And, everything's great. He gets to the bar and he has one drink just to calm himself down. And then just so you know, this was her idea, happy hour. Her idea, happy hour at the dive bar. Okay.
Yeah.
She gets there and she gets to the bar and he's ready for another drink. And the bartender goes, what can I get you? And she's like, oh, a soda. I'm a recovering alcoholic. So he runs to the bathroom and calls me, emergency. And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, you're not going to believe this. Not one word of this has ever been spoken that she's a recovering alcoholic. And I got a bourbon in front of me and she's drinking a soda. What do I do? I was like, well, first of all, calm down. It's okay. So yeah. I said, just take her to a table and just say, hey, what's your thoughts and opinions on drinking and stuff like that? And just get to know her. Don't make it a big deal. And he did, and it was fine. And then after the date, I had to explain to him. I said, look, I don't know how much of a big drinker you are, or if alcohol is a big part of your life socially or whatever, but you're going to need to find that out. And if she's, recovering alcoholic and she doesn't want to be around it, that's something that you got to decide. But it just, the way he found out was kind of just funny.
Especially because she suggested the happy hour.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking, wow, that is just the craziest story ever.
It's like, meet me at Phil's barbecue. By the way, I don't eat meat.
Yeah, I'm a vegan. What are you offering me this for? Right.
Oh, that's funny.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I have one final question for you, because I know this is something that listeners are thinking about, especially if they are divorced and they have children.
Okay.
How soon? Some people say, I don't want to say I have kids yet, or should it just be known right away? Okay,
so this is two-pronged. So one, always be honest and say you have kids.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And there's no reason to start lying or holding back or anything. Now, having said that, when to actually introduce them to the kids or even talk to the kids, I always say 15 and under, do not discuss it with the children until you're in a committed relationship or maybe even 6 months down the road. Now, anything older than that, they're pretty much rooting for you at this time. Come on, Mom, get out there. Dad, let's go. So that's one of my two things. Like, don't lie in the beginning. Say this is what's going on. And then, but with the children itself, depending on the age, ease them into it, depending on how old they are.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah. That's great advice. Gosh, you have so much good stuff. So now, where can they find you?
They can find me at the bar called Instagram.
Exactly.
I gave up. I basically gave up on the websites, and everyone reaches out to me on Instagram anyway. Yeah. So that's where they can find me. Follow me on Instagram, send me a DM, let me know what's going on, and I'll send you to my coaching page.
And you are the date coach. So the date coach on Instagram, and check him out. He's got amazing content, funny stuff too. Like, you always have me laughing, and just great stuff. I'm so happy that you joined me today. This is so much fun, and thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. And we like to say, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't. See you next time.